The French Revolution.
Vive la France!
The Estates General was France's form of parliament and was extremely unequal. The first two estates, which were the clergy and the nobility, always outnumbered the third estate. The vote was always 2-1. This meant that the peasants had no say in decisions that were being made. The people who were very unhappy and could not prevent bad things from happening to them. The Enlightenment was a period of new ideas and ways of thinking. This gave peasants the idea that they did not have to be peasants their whole life. They felt that they could create change. The idea of the social contract came about, which caused the people to realize that an unjust king could be replaced. Enlightenment allowed for nationalism to be born because loyalty was no longer only to the king. Before the French Revolution, the king had absolute power and the people had no say at all. This meant that nationalism was created through the revolution because before the revolution, the people only had loyalty to the king. Without the king, they had to be loyal to someone else, so nationalism occurred. The American Revolution inspired the French to do the same as the US. They saw that it was possible to overthrow a monarch and live without their rule. France was also in national debt due to the funding the American Revolution, causing taxes to go up. A volcano erupted, sending ash over Europe, killing crops and leading to food shortages. This sparked anger amongst the peasants because while they were starving, the king was not suffering at all. This led to the famous rumor of Marie Antoinette saying, "Let them eat cake," since they had no bread. This was not true, but it increased resentment towards the monarchy and drove them towards nationalism. Due to financial crisis and an increase in taxes, the Third Estate took action and established a government of its own, the National Assembly. Together they took an oath called the Tennis Court Oath. They vowed not to stop until they established a new constitution. This was one of the first times that the people ever took a stand. It showed a commitment to change and that the revolution was going to continue. It clearly showed that loyalty was no longer to the king. On July 14th, a mob stormed the Bastille to acquire arms. This became a symbol of the destruction of the king's power. As the message of storming the Bastille spread, other French people joined the fight. The storming of the Bastille became a national myth and started French nationalism. French nationalism was based on their ability to self-govern, which they were never able to do under the control of the king. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen was adopted by the National Assembly on August 27. It asserted the sovereignty of the people, which was the basis of French nationalism. It stated that all men are born and remain free and equal. A crowd of angry and hungry women marched to the Palace of Versailles to protest the shortage of bread. This is known as the March of Women. This meant that nationalism was not just among men, but also women. Monarchs of other countries, such as Prussia and Austria, were afraid of the developing sense of loyalty to the nation-state in France. They saw this new idea of being loyal to the state opposed to its ruler as a threat to their own power. This led to the Declaration of Plinth, which authorized other countries to intervene in the revolution if revolutionaries should harm the king or queen. On January 17, 1793, King Louis XVI was convicted of treason and executed by the guillotine, the humane way of killing people, on January 21st. Marie Antoinette followed right after. This act by the revolutionaries demonstrates how their nationalist loyalties have shifted from being loyal to the king to become loyal to the state. As a result of the execution of the King and Queen of France, a Committee of Public Safety was created. This committee, founded by Robespierre, was created to fight against agents of the old government who were thought to be secretly undermining the revolution. This led to the Reign of Terror, which simply refers to the many public executions via guillotine, which were more than 40,000 people were executed. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte declared himself Emperor of France. Napoleon was a military genius and was very popular in France. With the rise of Napoleon, he finally brought a sense of order and stability to the country. Shortly after his coronation, he began a war of conquest across Europe. This war would eventually lead to the fall of Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. As a result of this war, nation-states began to form in order to defend themselves against Napoleon and the French army. As well, this war promoted a sense of nationalism and national pride amongst the French people through their many war victories. Nationalism was also created in other countries because they had to protect their nation and were able to unite behind a single cause. The greatest result of the French Revolution was the spread of nationalism throughout Europe. Nationalist loyalties shifted to the nation rather than the king or queen. As well, Napoleon's battle victories provoked national pride amongst the French people. In addition, nations were being created across Europe. The French Revolution was the birth of nationalism as we know it.